Every moment of our daily lives plays out around the ticking of a clock. Whether we realize it or not, time plays a pivotal role in our daily lives. We're always keeping in check with the clock, whether to make sure we live our lives on our own time or someone else's. An extension of this is that our lives are dictated by numbers. Just think about it. We often check how much money is in our bank accounts, how many calories are in our food, and how many tasks we have to get accomplished before a certain time of day. All of these things revolve around numbers that keep us in check with the world around us. If we didn't know how to count or tell time, our lives would likely be much different. But do these structures really make us happy? Today, we'll be taking a look at a remote ethnic group of individuals who live in the Amazon. These people are unable to tell time, nor do they understand the concept of numbers. However, despite this, they live very productive lives and seem to be extremely happy, maybe happier than we are. The inhabitants of the remote area of Piraha have learned unique skills that keep them on time and in check with the people around them, so that their daily habits mimic our own, albeit without the restrictions of a clock and number system. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button and ring the notification bell to stay up to date with all of our future videos. Also, be sure to stick around until the end to learn a truly bizarre fact about this remote tribe. The home of the Piraha. If we travel to the dense Amazon rainforest of Brazil, we may eventually run into a small ethnic group that's managed to resist the ever-changing world around them and continues to live without the influences of modern civilization. These people know nothing of the telephone, internet, or even electricity. Instead, they rely solely on the natural world around them and have no technology aside from what they can build with wood and other natural materials. The tribe of Piraha is made up of around 350 people, and it seems like one of the leading rules of the tribe is that they're not allowed to disturb nature unless it's absolutely necessary. The people live on a somewhat small reserve that's around 240 square kilometers. To gain access to the reserve, it's quite a long journey from the nearest landmass. If you ever wanted to visit, you'd have to plan a trip that takes several days. In fact, if you were to head to the area via boat, it would take about 2 full days of traveling to get there. Though despite this long trip, several people over the years have decided to make the trek out to visit the people of Piraha. More often than not, these visitors are trying to help the Piraha people by trying to convince them to join the modern world. Though each time someone is visited, they've been turned away or rejected by the Piraha people. One of the only exceptions to this was a man named Daniel Everett. Daniel decided to visit the tribe in the 1970s. At the time, his intention was to introduce them to God and the religion that surrounds Jesus of Nazareth. Before this point in his life, Daniel had never met any of the Piraha people before. He was essentially traveling to the island after only making minor preparations. Regardless of this, Daniel decided that it was necessary that these people learn about God and Jesus and wanted to do everything he could to ensure that their souls were safe before the end of their lives. However, in a strange turn of events, Daniel was unable to influence the people of Piraha. Instead, they managed to influence him and change his way of thinking. In the end, Daniel ended up turning away from the church after proclaiming that the people of Piraha were some of the happiest people he had ever met. After learning all this, what could possibly make the members of this tribe so happy and content with living in the wilderness? The language of the Piraha. One of the most incredible aspects of the Piraha tribe is that they have no concept of what a Westerner would know as success. Think about it. When most people talk about being successful, do they mean that they're truly happy, or simply that they've accomplished a set of goals that were set before them? More often than not, people in the Western world base their success on the possessions they own, or the cars they drive, or the homes they live in. In reality, these are nothing more than objects that cannot be taken with us to the grave. The people of Piraha know this and have dedicated their lives to helping further their tribe and community, rather than spending their days working for $1 so that they can buy products and services that they don't truly need. To better understand the mindset of the people of Piraha, we also must understand their language. For the most part, their language is very rudimentary. They don't know about many of the words that we use in the modern world. For example, most of their words or phrases aren't even words at all. Instead, they're little more than sounds, clicks, hums, or other noises. Sometimes they'll even sing short melodies to get their point across. Whatever the case may be, modern speaking is a foreign idea to them. To illustrate this, we need to only take a look at the ways they communicate. One of the first things you'll notice is that they do not have words to identify colors. Instead of coming up with names such as red or black, they reference objects to describe these colors. In this instance, red would be referred to as blood, and black would be referred to as coal. To make matters even more confusing, they also have no concept of direction in terms of using words like left or right. Instead, they'll make hand movements or other sounds to refer to these directions. However, for the most part, they don't acknowledge the difference between the two. On top of this, they also have no knowledge of numbers or quantities. As an example, if they have a pile of 7 sticks, they wouldn't refer to it as a pile of 7 sticks. Instead, they would simply say sticks. In their minds, the quantity is irrelevant. This also translates into their inability to tell time, as they have no knowledge of seconds, minutes, or hours. Instead, they live their lives at the whim of the sun. If the sun happens to be hidden behind clouds, their sense of time will be a bit more difficult to understand. They know only times of the day, such as sunrise, midday, and night. Other than this, they have no concept of time, nor do they seem to care what time of day it may be. Why the Piraha are so happy? By this point, you may be asking, with all this in mind, why are the Piraha people so happy? With virtually no language to speak of, and the fact that their language consists of only 8 consonants and 3 vowels, how can they live in such harmony? While their language might be very limited, they still enjoy hanging out with one another and sharing a laugh. However, they just do so differently than us. This is because, for the most part, when we spend time with friends, we tell them about the past and the future. We may share a funny story about what happened to us at the supermarket, talk about our plans for the future, or many other things. Though, for the Piraha people, they only ever talk about the present and what's going on around them at this particular moment. It's not that they don't have memories or anything like that. It's just that their language doesn't allow them to dwell on such a thing because they don't have words to describe these particular experiences. Think about it. When you're sad, your internal dialogue likely reflects your thoughts in a negative way. If you were to remove this dialogue entirely, your thoughts would likely be much more fleeting, meaning your mind wouldn't allow you to dwell on these moments for such a long period of time, if at all. An extension of this is that you wouldn't be able to think about the distant future either, because you simply can't comprehend it, because it's never been taught or revealed to you. Because of this, the Piraha people are often threatened because neighboring tribes will try to take advantage of them, or vice versa. With their minds so tightly attached to the present, when they get angry, they're prone to lash out toward the people around them. This has caused many conflicts to arise in the past, leading many of the Piraha people to lose their lives over the years. Separate from their language, parasites are also known to run rampant in the region, leading to serious diseases and illnesses that can affect the whole tribe in no time at all. In fact, the area around them is so dangerous that when they go to bed at night, they don't use calming words such as good night. Instead, they bid each other a good evening by saying, "Don't sleep, there are snakes here." Pretty grim when you really think about it. However, despite all these threats that place them in harm's way, they don't let this affect their mood because they're insistent on focusing on the here and now. The future will be a problem when it gets here, but for now, everything is okay and they're happy. In reality, this is a lesson that most of us can learn from. Daniel Everett's teachings. Daniel Everett did the best he could to help teach the tribe members arithmetic. He wanted to pass on the knowledge of the Western world to the tribe in the best way possible. However, it seemed as though his messages simply weren't getting through to the tribesmen. He spent many months doing his best to teach them how to count. He started with simple numbers, only trying to teach them to count from 1 to 10. He spent many months doing this, but the knowledge just wasn't getting through to them. Just as he thought he was making a breakthrough, his plans would fall apart and the tribe would be right back where they started. He would spend hours each day doing his best to teach them, but it was almost as if they weren't interested. After a short time, he learned that the language of the tribe was slightly more advanced than he had originally thought. He learned that they were able to differentiate quantities by using words that would represent few and many. However, past this, they simply couldn't comprehend what he was trying to teach them. After he failed at teaching them basic mathematics, he tried to pass on knowledge of the Christian religion. However, this was a colossal failure. No matter what he tried, they could not understand the concept of something that they could not see. The people had never given much thought to how humans came into existence, nor did they care about a higher power. Considering their thoughts were locked into the here and now, they didn't have any interest in acknowledging a God or a savior. This is where things really began to get bizarre. In the months that Daniel spent teaching the tribe, he wasn't able to convert them to Christianity. However, in a strange twist, they managed to convince him to abandon organized religion. This would pose a major change for Daniel's personal life. After all, the church he had been attending paid for his trip to the Amazon, and they helped to fund his adventures and his endeavors while he lived there for a short while. Though, now that his thoughts had begun to shift, and he was contemplating the idea of abandoning his religion altogether, he lost many of his longtime friends. That wasn't the worst of it, though. During his first few missions into the Amazon, his wife and 3 children had come along with him. They helped him in his journey the best that they could. However, as his faith began to waver and he decided to renounce Christianity, his family also turned away from him and didn't want to be a part of his journey any longer. At the end of it all, Daniel published his thoughts, experiences, and lessons in a book titled The Happiest People in the World. This book is still available for purchase today and documents many accomplishments and trials that Daniel went through with the Piraha people. Thanks for watching. What do you think about this bizarre and unknown tribe? Also, before you go, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos.